Hi, I'm Yoram Solomon, and I gave you that teaser video, and I got a lot of responses. So I recorded the tutorial. I was going to do it this weekend, but I got so much feedback that I figured I'll do it earlier rather than later, sooner rather than later. The purpose of this tutorial is to show you what tricks did I use in that exercise, and it's really not that hard. Where I took a video recording, a Zoom recording, and with a few other things that I did while recording it, I brought it to high quality, broadcast quality, really high definition video. Now, this is something that I know that some of you are using. I was interviewed on a few podcasts, video podcasts, and it was recorded via Zoom by the person on the other side doing the interview, which really would be you. And when they posted it, I looked at the quality, and it wasn't great. It was not very good. I mean, and you want to appear as professional. Here's the funny thing is, I don't conduct those interviews. So essentially everything I'm showing you here are things that you can use if you're doing those interviews, but I don't. But still, it was worthwhile getting the feedback, and I know that some of you would be interested in that. This is not just something that you do now. This is something that you will be doing later. And even after this pandemic is over and we go back to giving talks and workshops and keynotes in person, you're still going to be conducting interviews via Zoom or any other tool for that matter. And by the way, this is not limited to Zoom. Because simply you have people that you're going to interview that are not going to fly over to where you are just so that you can interview them. But this is how you can create this quality. Let me start by saying why the quality is so bad right now. Really, I mean, this is it's due to the internet. It's not the tools themselves. It's not software. It's not even your computer. Or anything around that. What you would experience is during that Zoom call, and you've seen that, you have breakups. All of a sudden, the voice is kind of choppy. The picture gets frozen or everything gets frozen. The call gets dropped, and that happens too. The other part of it is that Zoom saves locally on your computer. When you click record, when you press record, Zoom saves locally at the best resolution of 720p. It used to be called high definition, but high definition really is 1080p. And Zoom can only record at 720p, which really doesn't make sense if it recorded at a higher quality, because that's not the weakest link in that chain. The most problematic part is really the internet, the quality of the internet. Internet is unreliable. There is a map that I'm probably showing you right now of this is just internet issues in the US on a good day. So this is at a time that not too many people use it, and you can see the darker areas. This is where people are having internet issues. If I captured a map, that was, by the way, just at the time that I took a snapshot of what this map looks like. And this is only for one provider, one internet provider. If I showed you what happens when there are real serious internet issues or high demand for internet, this map is red. I mean, there are areas where people have a lot of issues. Another thing that you can keep in mind, you should keep in mind, is that when your service provider tells you that you're going to be getting 200 megabits per second or 300 megabits per second, they're not really guaranteeing it. And you can see from the note, this is the small print, so I had to magnify it, at the bottom of the page of one of the service providers that has promised me, I bought from them 300 megabits per second, and it says pricing and actual speeds may vary. There's also another comment there that says internet speed based on wired connections. And I want to talk about wired and wireless as well, because your wireless connection, specifically using Wi-Fi, is very susceptible to interference. I mean, we're not talking about security of the wireless link. We're talking about interference by other Wi-Fi networks by Bluetooth devices, cordless telephones that are all sharing the 2.4 gigahertz. Some are sharing the 5.8 gigahertz, which is another band used by Wi-Fi. And in some cases, microwave ovens interfere with Wi-Fi communications. So all in all, it's not a Zoom problem as it is the internet connectivity, because video requires much higher bandwidth than only audio or just data that is completely asynchronous. The purpose of this video is to give you a tutorial of how to get from what is a typical Zoom recording quality that looks like this. Maya, tell me about driving to Denton.
Well, since I've been driving for several years now, driving doesn't scare me anymore. So I really like the drive
to a much better video quality that would look like this. Maya, tell me about driving to Denton.
Well, since I've been driving for several years now, driving doesn't scare me anymore. So I really like the drive to Denton.
And by the way, as you can notice, I can even play with the size because I have a much better definition. And to just give you an example, this is what my image through Zoom recorded on the other side of this call looks like when you try and bring it to full page, in case that's what you wanted to do in editing. Maya, tell me about driving to Denton. And this is what it looks like if you captured it the way I'm going to show you. Maya, tell me about driving to Denton. And I should just add that this was a Zoom call held in my house. So this is the best link you can expect because both computers are connected. I'm not even sure that they weren't connected through my internal Ethernet, but even if not, even if they really did go out to the internet to just transfer the video, they didn't go far. They didn't go across states, across cities, or across continents. So this is the best you can ever get from Zoom, and look at how we can improve that quality. And this is what this tutorial is about. Now, one more disclaimer about the quality of this video, or this video specifically, the tutorial itself. You're not going to see me most of the time. You're going to see slides that I prepared for this to show you in screenshots. This is not the highest quality videos. This is not the quality of videos that I'm using with my clients and my customers. And the reason is I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to get this video as quickly as possible in your hands so you can use what I'm showing you there as quickly as possible. And hopefully you're not going to care too much about the quality of my own recording of this video. Now, the prerequisites, I mean, I'm making a few assumptions of what you know and what you can do here. I'm assuming that you're comfortable installing software and peripherals. And I have to admit that today, it's not that hard. It's not very hard. So I'm going to do as much as I can to show you, but I'm not going to take you step by step through installing software. If you can't, just ask someone who can help you with that. I'm not going to show you how to use Zoom. I'm assuming that you know how to use Zoom. I'm going to show you several things in Zoom, but I'm not going to teach you how to use it. I'm assuming that you or someone you know knows how to edit videos. I'm using Premiere Pro, but Final Cut and any other software would do. Heck, the software that's free can still do what I'm going to show you, but I'm going to show it on Premiere Pro. So I'm not going to teach you how to install software or hardware. I'm not going to show you how to use the hardware. I'm not going to show you how to use the software, only in the context of what I'm showing you here. But many of you I know have a technical person to do those things. So what I'm going to suggest is just let your technical person see this and take it from there. You do your interviews, your technical person is going to do that. I'm a geek. I 30 years ago when I started my career was really as an engineer, even more than 30 years. I worked a lot as an engineer. I was part of creating the Wi-Fi standards, USB, even participated in Bluetooth activities. So I love this stuff. I love taking photos and videos. So I do my own stuff myself. Don't feel that you have to. You have a technical person, let them see the video, they're going to make sense out of it. With that, I think enough conjecture. We're going to go into the tutorial. So let's go over what I'm going to cover in this tutorial. So there are going to be 6 parts to it. The first one is the flow of content or files. The second is green screen. Now, I need to make a comment about green screen. Somebody commented on my teaser video that that they don't want to use green screen. That's fine. That you don't need to use green screen to use the techniques here in this tutorial. I like to use green screen because it gives me flexibility after I record it. So later I can play with different backgrounds, but you don't need to use green screen. This is not mandatory. I will show you how I bring in green screen and a few thoughts about that though. Hardware, what hardware to use, and I'll talk about software then and setup of both the local and remote side. Then I'll talk about the recording during the interview itself. And finally, I'll touch on editing. So with that, let's start with the content flow. So first of all, I want you to think in terms of there's the local site. This is where you are, the person who is recording it, who's doing the interview, or eventually the person who is editing it. By the way, I'll go even wild. You can even have a third person as your local site and you yourselves being as a remote site and somebody else being the other person you're interviewing as a remote site. You'll probably make sense of that by yourselves, but just keep in mind you need 2 sites. In one of them, at least 2 sites, in one of them, step number 1 is that you're going to be recording locally through OBS. OBS is a free software, and I'll touch on that and show you how to set it up and where to find it. That would allow you to store the recording on either side, on both sides, or more than 2 if you have more, at high definition locally at the drive, the hard drive itself that you have in your laptop or computer. Step number 2 is at least in one site, whether it's remote or local, here I showed it as local, is you record the Zoom call itself. Now, the funny thing is that this will never make it to the final product. The only purpose of the Zoom call, the recording of your Zoom call, is to synchronize the other recordings so that the conversation, the interview looks seamless. The only one that has all of them is your local Zoom call. So you need to record that as well. Step number 3 is you're actually holding the Zoom call. And step number 4 is after the fact, one location, the location, whoever is going to do the video editing, they need all those files. They need the blue files, which are the local OBS recordings, the green file, which are the remote OBS video recordings, and the red one is the local Zoom recording. So I use FileMail, but there are there's WeTransfer, you can use anything, OneDrive. I'll actually share a list of how you can send that file, because this is going to be a pretty big file. Another view of the topology of all of this, now we're looking mostly on the remote side. So yes, I do have that green screen. You can see the person is wearing a headset. I'll talk about that. It's not really a headset. I would not recommend using a headset that's visible. You need to have a good quality microphone. You need to have a good quality webcam, and that's not very expensive. You need to have lighting, because without lighting, a good camera and good microphone, you're not going to get good content on the other side. In the computer, in the remote computer, you're going to need to have OBS as a software, Zoom as a software. You're going to do the local recording that I mentioned. You're going to use a VirtualCam. We'll talk about that. And then your 2 connections to the internet are live through Zoom, and after the call, FileMail. On the right side, what I'm showing you is essentially what this is going to look like on the on the video editing software. You're going to have the Zoom video and the Zoom audio from the local Zoom recording. You're going to have OBS video, let's just call it 1, and 1 might be the local one, and audio 1, high quality and high definition respectively. You're going to have OBS video 2, and audio to from the remote site. Those are the files that were sent through file mail. Next, let's talk about green screen. And as you can see behind me, I have green screen. And now you don't see that I have green screen anymore. I mentioned that I like to use green screen because it does give me flexibility, but there are different levels and quality of how you use green screen. Using green screen is one thing, but you need to eliminate the green screen. And you need to eliminate it in a way that does not leave a lot of artifacts around it. And in order to do that, you need to, well, there are several different levels, and I'm going to start with the bottom one. I painted it red, so this is like the worst one. And this is, you know, in Zoom, if you go to virtual background, and I'm actually going to show you that in a few slides. If you go to virtual background, not using a green screen, it does replace your background with something else, and the artifacts around you are just terrible. And I'm shocked to see how many people actually use that. I mean, you can tell that it is not real. Now, if you did green screen, if you put a green screen, even what I have behind me now, you're going to have better results, even with Zoom and virtual backgrounds. I'm saying without color picking because there's another step with Zoom that you can use, and that is put color picking. And I'll show you how to do that. That makes the elimination of the green screen and replacing it with something else even better. One important thing that I'll talk about in the next slide is the importance of lighting the green screen behind me or behind you very homogeneously. I think that's how you say it, homogeneously. Just lighting it homogeneously, because it doesn't matter how much you light it, as it is that it's lit, that it generally is the same color. And you can see behind me, that's not a very good green screen. You can see my shadow, over here. You can see my shadow over here. You can see other artifacts here, like little folds and things. That's not great. You will still see how it gets eliminated. A higher performance elimination of green screen, again through chroma key, happens with OBS. So when you have OBS eliminating it, it does a much better job than Zoom. It has a lot more flexibility and the ability to do settings to eliminate that. And then at the highest level is when you really do offline video editing software and using, I'm using Adobe Premiere Pro. This would give you the best results. It has the most flexibility. It has the most processing power because it doesn't have to do it live. So we have all the time in the world to really eliminate the green screen. I mentioned the importance of uniform lighting. There is an app that I use on my phone. I believe it's available not only for iPhone but also for Android, and it's called Green Screener. I think that it costs $10. I think that's what it cost me in the past. I don't know if it's free or how much it costs now. This is what it looks like. This is what the icon looks like. What you see here is a snapshot from my phone, and that snapshot shows that what the uniformity of the green screen, and I'm actually doing it on the green screen that's behind me. And you can see that there are different areas here and differences. I chose the mid setting. Low setting is much more forgiving, but will require a lot more work afterwards when you edit it and you want to eliminate green screen. And high would be the most critical of your green screen illumination and uniformity of color. And you know what? If you fix it at this point, it's going to be a lot easier to do it later. When you edit it. Now, if we go back to Zoom, at Zoom you have typically it comes up with none. So there is this is where the red arrow points. No virtual background. If you do want to have a virtual background and you choose a virtual background, so this is where the red arrow is pointing. So let's say that we chose the Golden Gate Bridge. The blue one, I would recommend that you check this one and say, I have a green screen. Zoom does a better job in eliminating green screen when you have a green screen, but you have to tell Zoom that you have a green screen. Now, I'm showing you this green arrow. There's a little box there. If you press on this box, you can actually tell Zoom what is the I'm going to call it the average green. And this is what it's going to look like. There's going to be this little thing on the screen, and you can move it around with your mouse and choose where or what kind of green is the green that you want to use to eliminate it. I choose kind of in the middle. You can see that in the corners, the green is a little darker, closer to my face because of my lighting. The green is a little lighter. So use somewhere in between to eliminate green screen. And from that moment on, you can see that in that little window that's pointed by the red arrow, this is the green that was chosen. And you can see now what it looks like in behind me. So even with zoom, you can improve by having a green screen, by picking up the color. And that's what I meant when I showed the highest level of what you can get with zoom. But that's pretty much what you can get with zoom on green screen. So back to the different levels. The best that you can do to eliminate that is do it offline, which is why I would recommend that you actually just use a green screen, light it well, but choose none. Do not use the green screen elimination or chroma key by zoom. Let this be done after the fact when you get to video editing of the file. So the files that you're going to be sending, and even the Zoom call itself, is going to be held with people with green screen behind them, and that's all you're gonna see. That will give you the best results. Okay, next step. Let's talk a bit about hardware. So I'm going to share the equipment that I used to do this demo video that I showed you. First, there is the computer itself. So my local editing computer is actually more than $1,000. It was about $1,200, and I did upgrade a few things. But this is a video editing computer. If I only needed a computer locally to do the call itself and not do the video editing, same laptop that I use remotely here, which is a $499 Dell laptop from Costco. It's, not an entry-level laptop, but it's not much higher than an entry level. You don't need a very good laptop. So most likely the person that you're interviewing on the other side already has a laptop that's good enough for that. You do need a good USB microphone. I spent about $150. I use a Yeti Blue Yeti. There are a few others, and I'm going to show you some of the others. I like USB microphones because it comes out of the microphone as digital stream, as opposed to an analog stream that is more susceptible to noise that it's going to pick up because the signal is very, very weak. So a reasonable USB microphone, sound quality is very important. Those of you who do deal with videos, you already know that the sound, the quality of the sound is one of the most important, if not the most important part of any video. Reasonable camera. So many of us, it's like the industry standard is the Logitech C920. Now they have the 922. Just a reasonable camera. You can get those under $100. I know that now during the pandemic, everybody stocked up on those cameras, and so they're hard to find, and people are raising their prices. But I think you can still find them at that price. I personally use a DSLR now. I shifted to use the DSLR. I've done a lot of work with the C920, but I'll show you that when I go into the next slide. Green screen, I really spent $20 on a green screen. Actually, one of the ones, the one I use upstairs in my professional video studio, is a $10. The most important part about the green screen is the size. I mean, if you look at the picture on Amazon or any other place, and you look at what it looks like, how it rolls into the ground, and you go, oh, this is going to be big enough, but just read what they say. If they say it's 6 feet by 9 feet, that's what it is, and it doesn't exactly look like what it is on the picture. I would, if I did it today, I would prefer to use paper, green paper, and there's one that you can get from B&H and other places. This is especially for photographers because there are no folds or anything. There are no artifacts. That would be best. And I probably will get one at some point. I am going to talk about IFB earpiece. The one I'm using is $10, costs $10. You can go $75. Heck, you can probably go $300-400, but you don't need more than a $10 one. I'll show you what it is and why you need that. OBS software with VirtualCam. They're both made by the same organization. They're both OBS. They don't cost anything. Back to locally, I mentioned the video editing computer. You know, if you need a video editing, then you need video editing. If you don't, all you're doing is just hosting that call. You don't need more than a $500 computer. Good USB microphone, again, reasonable camera, green screen, lights, everything is the same. I'll talk about lights in greater detail. You can even do that without spending $100 on lights. IFB earpiece, again, OBS software and VirtualCam and whatever video editing software. This could be expensive, but if you're letting somebody do video editing, they already have video editing software. Okay, let's go into cameras. So different types. There are different things that you can do and use. You can use just you know, the C920, the Logitech C920, kind of the industry standard, if you will. It is a high definition camera, and I think that what you're going to see, like you see in the picture here, is that in the front it says HD 1080p, which is great. However, you can zoom with that camera, and this is something very important. Do not zoom with that camera, because that zoom is not an optical zoom. It is a digital zoom, and with digital zoom, what the camera really does is it only uses some of the pixels that it has. And it just takes, let's say that you did 2x zoom, it takes every pixel and turn a pixel into 4 pixels, 2 pixels high, 2 pixels wide, with the same information, which means that if you take a 1080p camera and you do a 2x digital zoom, what you actually get is a 540p video quality, but at a larger size. That is not better quality. So if you're using a C920 or something like this that does not have optical zoom, do not zoom. Position the camera such, position yourself relative to the camera such that you don't need the zoom. This is how you get the 1080p quality, the highest quality. On the right side of this image is a newer camera from Logitech. This is the Logitech Brio. This is a 4K camera. If all you care about, which typically is going to be the case, is 1K or 1080p video quality or full HD quality, you can zoom up to 2x. It's going to do the same thing. It's digital zoom, but a 2x zoom on a 4K camera is the equivalent of 1080p quality. So in general, I like not to zoom when you have digital zoom, because that's just lowers the quality. Next, in the middle is, this is something that I use. I actually am going to show you a slide where I use that just, you know, to show something. And that is, it's an app called Kinoni. Kinoni is the company, Epoch Cam. Make sure of one thing, the app is free, and you're going to be very happy that it's free, but the app looks green and not red like the one here. The green one is not high definition, does not record in high definition. If this is the camera that you're going to use, if you're going to use your iPhone as a camera, then get, and I think it's only $5.99, like $6, get the red one, the Epoch Cam HD, and not the standard definition, not the green free one. As far as what camera, obviously you can see in the back, this is an iPhone 11 Pro with 3 cameras. I don't have that one. I have the iPhone 11. It only has 2 cameras. But you know what? I did a great high quality video project for Walmart that I was very happy with it. And I used my previous iPhone, an iPhone 6s. So the iPhone cameras and the Google Pixel phone and other Samsung, they have pretty good quality cameras. So don't underestimate the fact that you and the person on the other side actually already have a good camera. What I'm using right now is I'm using a DSLR. I'm using the Nikon 3500, which is actually the one in the picture, with the lens it costs under $400. You can get that for $396. You will need to add something to it called Cam Link. There is a way to connect it through USB and use another piece of software. I tried that. It doesn't give you the full high definition of using the HDMI port out of the camera into the Cam Link, which is coming from a company called Elgato. One thing you want to make sure is, for example, even in this case, that the video is coming out at 1080p and not any other resolution. And use about 24 to 30 frames per second. You don't need 60 frames per second, really. That's 30 frames per second is plenty, even 24. Our eye starts noticing that the video is made of multiple pictures at 18. So at 24, you're good. Again, I'm using a DSLR. You don't need to use DSLR, and I'm not going to teach you how to use that. Next, I'll talk about microphones. As I said before, USB microphones. There are several that are very recommended. I'm not passionate about one or the other. And the one in the middle, that's the Blue Yeti. That's the one I'm using. I think is about $150. The one on the right is the Rode. I'm not sure which one. I'd be happy, by the way, to write, if anybody is interested, I'll write links to all the equipment. But I don't want you to think that this is the end all be all, and no other equipment is going to work. I'm sure that there are plenty of USB microphones. Those are the ones I heard about being best. And very reasonably priced, between $100 to $150. So the Rode on the right, Audio Technica on the left. The important part is that, two important parts. One is that these are USB microphones, so they go digital right out of the box into your computer. Second thing is, pay attention where you talk to. The Rode microphone and the Blue Yeti, you have to talk to them just like this, like they're standing, so you talk to their side. The Audio Technica here, actually you talk to the top of it, and make sure that you're choosing the right pattern. Lighting. Lighting is very important. I mentioned it before. You are going to get a dark picture. You're not going to get good lighting. The green screen behind you, if you're using green screen, is not going to be lit well enough if you don't have good lighting. I gave a few examples here. I'm using really almost everything. I don't use the thing on the right with the umbrella, although that's viable. There are different types of light bulbs. Believe it or not, in my professional video studio, and it's okay, it's semi-professional, I have the one on the left, and the one on the left, I used to think that it cost $18. I guess they lowered the price. It's now $11. This is it. It's kind of the lights that you would use in a garage. It's $11 to put a light bulb. The light bulb is probably about $2. I use LED light bulbs. You don't have to. Here's an important part. The note in the bottom right. You know that lights have different colors, and it's called color temperature. And color temperature can range from, 2,300, I think, to 7,500 or something like this, typically. You sometimes hear them referred to as daylight versus soft light, or anything or warm light. The lights that are really recommended are the ones that are in the daylight category. They are purely white. These are the lights that I use all around. The color temperature is around 5,000 K. That's the number. A soft light is going to be more like 2,000, 3,000, sometimes even 4,000. 5,000, maybe even 5,600 K is daylight. This is white. This is the one I would recommend. If you want to go a step further, you want a CRI of 95 and beyond. But you know what? Now we're getting really, really, really sticklers, and I don't want you to go that way. You need to make sure that you get good lighting, okay? Good lighting of the green screen if you're using green screen, good lighting of the object that you are recording. I want to talk about a phenomena that happens with audio. You probably heard that. Sometimes you probably don't know why it even happens, and that is the feedback. You get feedback. You say something, and you hear yourself through your own speakers coming from the remote side, and the other person hears you coming in feedback. It's very annoying. It's very unprofessional, and it does not come across very well when you get, if you want a high quality broadcast level recording. Here's really what happens. You have your computer has speakers. The speakers may be external, they may be part of the computer itself. Now, the computer has its own internal microphone. The quality of that microphone is terrible. So you would most likely use an external microphone like the one in the picture here. I'm using the Blue Yeti. You can use anything else. The thing is, now we have some delay. Zoom as a software does its best to eliminate this echo. So it tries to eliminate what it sends out through the speakers from coming back through the microphone. I mean, it will come back, but the software itself will do its best to eliminate the echo. That can create artifacts in audio, and sometimes it's just not enough, especially some microphones would have longer delays until they bring it back, and the Zoom software cannot handle it. So what you see here is the computer, what you hear from the other side, coming from the other person, comes out of the computer. That's the red arrow, first red arrow on the right, goes out to the speakers, internal or external, goes to the microphone, because you know the microphone is there in the area where the speakers are. Microphone sends it back along with what's coming out of your mouth, and that's the green arrow. So what comes back from the microphone into the laptop are both the red and the green, and hopefully Zoom is strong enough, powerful enough to eliminate that. Practically, as you've noticed, it doesn't. So what I do is I use something that's called an IFB earpiece. I'm going to get off the slides, and I'm going to let you see that I am actually wearing one. This is what it looks like. The microphone is, it's actually transparent. Some of them are body color. The wires go behind my ear. And this is what they look like in reality. This is what the full thing looks like. It actually plugs into your computer, and they vary in price between $10, $75. I've seen more expensive than that. Believe it or not, but what I use is a $10 one. It's good enough. I can hear the other person. But here's the thing. When I use Zoom, in Zoom, and I'm going to show you where this setting is, in Zoom, I am selecting, instead of external speakers, I'm selecting this IFB headset, and there's absolutely no way that my microphone is going to pick up what's coming through that headset. This is what broadcasters use. Again, it's pretty cheap. I would recommend and strongly recommend that even the person on the other side that you're interviewing actually uses one. But again, when we talk about something that costs $10, it's not that big a deal, but it would eliminate the echo. If there's one absolute sure way to eliminate the echo, this is the one. And I am back. Actually, you didn't even know that I left. This time, let's start talking about software and the setup of that software. So the first piece of software that I use is something that's called OBS or OBS Studio. OBS stands for Open Broadcaster Software. Quite a few of you know this software, but there are a few things that we're going to need to set in order to make it work better. So this is the website, obsproject.com. It's free, just downloaded it. The other thing that you need with it is something that's called OBS VirtualCam. OBS by itself is just a video editing software. It actually is made mostly to stream to any of the streaming websites, but it can also stream to things like Zoom or Teams or Skype or anything else. But for that, what you need is this little block or a plugin called OBS VirtualCam that actually takes the output from OBS and sends it into something else. Now, I noticed this little note here that says that this version of the plugin is currently deprecated and should not be used with OBS Studio V25, which is the current version. Please use this version instead. I did use the one that they linked to, and it seems to be working pretty well. After you installed OBS, you're going to get this screen. And the two things that you need to start doing are, one, the first thing actually to do is create a scene. So if you look at where the red arrow is, it shows you where the screen window, scenes windows is. You really only need just one scene. If you go to the bottom, there's a plus, And in that plus, you're just going to name that scene. I named it Zoom BCST, or for short for broadcast, and that's it. The next part is you need to identify sources. And the sources specifically are, this is the green arrow. Really, you just need a source for video and a source for audio. If you want more things, if you're going to be eliminating green screen using OBS, then you may have additional sources. If you want to put a logo on top of it, you may have additional sources. But for the purposes of what we're trying to do, I would just stick with get a video source, get an audio source. So in this little box that says sources in the bottom, there is a plus. Click on the plus, and what you'll get is what you see in the next screen. The other thing that I wanted to note here is this little blue arrow, and the blue arrow shows that right now there are two audio sources, whether you like it or not. One is that Yeti microphone, and the other one is the D3500. So as it turns out, the camera has its own source, and or creates its own source. It has its own microphone apparently. And what I did, you can see in the red, is I shut it off, because what you should not have is more than one audio source that goes into the recording. So if you clicked at the plus at the bottom of sources, this window will open up, and with the green arrow, you will click on the video capture device. I'll show you what this shows. And on the audio capture device, input device, and I'll show you what that shows. This is so that you can grab those as sources into OBS. So I selected an add video source or video capture source. And since I didn't have anything before, then I just said create new. I named it webcam. I can name whatever I want. You can see that I already have the D3500 as existing. So if you already had it, then check as existing. The next thing is you can choose whatever source you would like once you define the new source. And here is a list. What opens up is a list, and you can see, by the way, that I actually added something else. Remember, I talked about using the iPhone or any other, I don't know if it's any other, but another mobile phone as a camera. And so I use this EpoCam camera, again the red one, high definition, and you see that this shows up as an option. And actually the image that you see in this picture, in this slide, is what was captured by my phone, my iPhone. So that's another possibility for you. When you choose an audio, so an input microphone, here are the options, at least that I had in my computer. You would probably have the internal microphone. That's the first one that I have after default. Line for me is what's coming out of the Elgato sound capture from the camera. Microphone Kinoni, that's the EpoCam. So this is actually audio that's coming from my cell phone. And finally, microphone USB advanced audio device. In my case, that's my Blue Yeti device. Here's where it's starting to get a little tricky, because even OBS does not naturally save in high definition and in the parameters that we want. It wants to save this space. The higher definition, the higher frame rate, the higher data rate you're going to use, the more data it's going to consume on your hard disk drive and the hard disk drive for the person on the other side. But we do need to change those if we want really high quality. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to hit settings. And this is the window that's going to open from OBS. This is the settings window. And I went into the video. You can see that I checked video. And you can see that the output scaled resolution is set to 1920 by 1080. That was not the default. I had changed that. The default was 1280 by 720, which is 720p. Not necessarily what we want to choose. But what I want you to notice right now is that the selection is actually grayed out, so you will not be able to change it. The reason you're not able to change it is that as long as VirtualCam is operating, from OBS perspective, you are transmitting something, and it would not let you change any of the parameters. So instead, what you do in OBS first is look at the red arrow. You go to Tools. When you click on Tools, this is what opens up. The blue-yellow shows VirtualCam. Choose VirtualCam because this is your output. And this is the window you're going to get. see the blue arrow near the stop? Click stop. So you stop the stream out of this out of OBS. Only after you stop the stream out of OBS will you be able to change those parameters that are important. Also notice the red arrow I have here for auto start. The auto start, I like this checked because every time I open OBS, it will automatically start streaming through OBS VirtualCam. So this is how I like to set this up. Once I do that and I go back into settings and video settings, look at the resolutions. The resolutions are now changeable. You can change them to whatever resolution you'd like. And you can see that the frames per second are set to 30. If you go to output under settings, again OBS settings button on the right, and you choose output this time and not video, there are a few other parameters that I like to change. One of them is the video bitrate. I use something between 5 megabits per second and 5.5 megabits per second, or the way it's presented here, 5,000 kilobits per second or 5,500 kilobits per second. I like the encoder to be hardware. That typically is the case if you or the default if you have hardware accelerator, video accelerator, or a graphics card. Audio bitrate, I like to use 192. It's kilobits per second. That gives very good audio quality. You can settle with a 128, but that doesn't take a lot of disk space. That's the blue arrow. And the green arrow, note that the recording format, you want to make sure that it's MP4. The default is something else. I think it's called MKV or something like that, that typical video editors cannot read. So you want to make sure that it's coming out at MP4. Don't worry about the warnings in the bottom. Those are just warnings and will not cause anything dramatic here. The next thing to notice is actually after you've changed all those settings, don't forget that you are not broadcasting yet from OBS. You need VirtualCam started again. So click again on Tools, go back to VirtualCam, select VirtualCam, and this time hit Start. So now you're starting it. Again, I like to keep it in auto start so that it will start automatically anyway. A couple more things to show you about OBS. One of them is, actually it's just one thing with two screenshots. If you go to this little cogwheel near any of the microphones, you can open it up and go to properties. So the red arrow shows you where you open it up. That's the cogwheel, and then this is the window you're going to have, and you will see that I have properties. Go to properties. This is what it looks like, the properties for the OBS, the advanced audio properties. And I want you to notice the sync offset. So there are a lot of things that you can play with. I mean, you can play with the volume. You can see on the left the balance. You can send someone to the left channel, another person to the right channel. Could sound kind of cool that the interviewer is on the right, both visually and audibly, and the interviewee is going to be on the left. The sync offset allows you to move the audio to the video to correlate with the video to get a good lip sync. Don't worry about this because you are post-editing the video after you're done recording. So I never worry about it here. I will worry about that when I do a Zoom call because I know that my audio, my Blue Yeti is a little delayed, and so I actually want to get this about, I think the number I used was about 200 milliseconds early, so minus. Now let's go into Zoom. When you open Zoom, if you see near the mute button, there's this little up arrow which is highlighted with this blue arrow right now. If you click on this, it would allow you to select the microphone and the speaker. And that's important. We typically use that to select the microphone and use default for speaker, but use the speaker selection as well. The red arrow shows you, in my case, my Blue Yeti is the USB advanced audio device. It took me a while to figure out that that's what it means. So I made sure that I chose this. So the microphone goes straight into, Zoom. The speaker that I'm using, my regular speakers are external. So I do have the computer speakers, but I do have external speakers connected to this laptop. They're the USB audio. USB Advanced is actually the headphone that I can connect to the microphone, to the Blue Yeti microphone. I don't like using headphones. Doesn't look good on video in interviews. The speaker's headphones, Realtek audio selection that I highlighted with green, is actually this little 3.5 millimeter jack, headphone jack that is in the computer itself. I'm using that one, and guess what I'm connecting to it? The IFB headphone headset in my ear. So it is important that you choose this so that the other person, the sound from the other person will not come out of speakers, but actually come through the IFB headphone headset, and therefore you're not going to have echo at any point during this call. Finally, choosing the camera. Obviously, when you choose the camera, this time you're going to see OBS camera. What you see in my case is 4 different instances of OBS cameras. This is what happens when you take your time figuring out how to get this to work. So I got 4 different OBS cameras coming out of there. The first time you install it, you should only have one, and it's going to show OBS camera. So in Zoom, use OBS camera. Now, it's not like you can't work with the camera directly, but the problem is that only one piece of software can work with the camera. And if you try and connect directly to another camera or to the same camera from Zoom, and the same camera feeds into OBS, one of them is not going to get access to that camera. Only one software can get access to the camera at one time. So I'm choosing OBS, and this way the camera goes into OBS. OBS saves locally, records locally, as well as sends it into Zoom, and this is how you get the same camera into different devices. In Blue, don't forget virtual background. Maybe the person on the other side uses virtual background on a regular basis. You do not want them to use virtual background if you want high quality. You actually do want to get just the green screen, and to get just the green screen, make sure they go there, and under virtual background, they choose none. This is it. This is it for the setup itself. The next part I'll talk about is during the recording of the sessions, the interview, the Zoom call itself. Okay, next step, let's talk about the recording itself. So everything is set up both at your side and the other person's side, and the remote person, the interviewee, the person you're interviewing. And now we're going into the recording. So both sides, yours and theirs, you want to, the first thing is, let's go to this blue arrow, what this blue arrow shows, and make sure that the only audio that comes out is the audio from the high quality microphone. In my case, it's the Yeti, Blue Yeti microphone. You see that this one is active, and the other one, the one that comes from the camera, is inactive. This is very important. Otherwise, you're going to be recording more than one microphone, and you're going to hear that offset in sound, and that's going to be terrible. That's just going to be very poor quality. So just make sure that only one microphone, and it's the right microphone, comes out. Then obviously the red arrow points to start recording. Then you're going to start recording. After you start recording, in the bottom you're going to see this little red circle that shows that you are recording. You're going to see how long you're recording. By the way, next to it you're going to see the CPU, what percentage of the computer central processing unit, the CPU capabilities, is being used, and really right now it's using only 1%. Typically this is what it uses for me, somewhere between 1 and 2%. If you start going fancy, like having OBS do all kinds of chroma keys and something like this, this number is going to go up, and maybe certain computers will not be able to handle it, even though it does seem like the $500 Costco computer does work. So we started recording on OBS. Next step is you will be recording over Zoom, the Zoom call itself. You don't need the other person to record the Zoom call. And by the way, if you do want the other person to record, you have to go into participants and then click on the right to allow them to record as well. Otherwise, only the host can record, but really only you need to record this. So record this, here's the record button, and there on the top, you're gonna see this little red dot that goes bigger and smaller that shows that you are recording. And that's it. That's what it takes to record the session itself. In the next part, I'll talk about the editing of the recording after the fact. So if I go back to our diagram, what you'll see is we've done step number 1. Both you and the person that you interviewed record locally through OBS. You've done step 2. You recorded the call over Zoom. You've done step 3. You conducted the Zoom call. And now what we need to do is step 4, and that is transfer the OBS recording from the person you interviewed to your own disk drive so you can start editing. First of all, where are these recordings? Because they seem to be hidden pretty well. At least they were hiding from me. The Zoom recordings, you're going to find that when you go to, you can see in the red arrow in my computer, it's under this PC and Documents. This is the default. And under Documents, you will see that there is a directory called Zoom. And under that directory that's called Zoom, you're going to have folders for all the different sessions that you had, and you see what they're kind of called. They're called, look at the last one that I did with Maya. That's the one called Yoram Solomon Zoom Meeting 738 whatever. That's the call that I capture. So this is where the Zoom calls are recorded. Now, here's something interesting. As I go into that recording to look at the Zoom file, the Zoom _0, that's the only recording, the video recording that I have in that folder. But I want you to notice with the blue arrow that the quality that Zoom recorded with was 1280 by 720. And that's what I was telling you. It's a much lower quality. You can even see that the bit rate for audio was 53 kilobits per second and not 192 as we will see recorded with OBS. The OBS file, on the other hand, hides under the videos file, and it's actually right there. There is no directory called OBS or anything. It just goes there. These are the files that you see on the right, you know, the 2020-07-22 and so on. The 21s are the ones that from my experiment with Maya. And if you click on one of those, here's what you're going to see. The quality of that file is 1920 by 1080. That's full HD. And if this is what the blue arrow shows, and if you go a little lower on audio, you will see that the bit rate is 192 kilobits per second, which is really great quality. The next step is for the remote person, the person that you interviewed, to send you the local OBS file. So you already know where to find it and what it looks like, and so just guide them through this. And the software that I typically, it's not a software, it's really a tool, online tool that I like to use. It's called FileMail, and it's really at filemail.com. You can use FileMail, you can use Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive. I know people who like WeTransfer.com, which is another service like this. The advantage of those services is because email cannot send a file that big. And this is going to be a big file. I mean, if you record a few seconds, this is going to be a file that cannot go over email. So you do need a service like this in order to be able to send that kind of file size. So this is what it typically looks like, at least in FileMail. You don't need an account. It's free. The only thing is it's free. It would only allow you to send 2 files per day, I believe. There is no limit on the size, as much as I know. I've sent big files and never had an issue with that. And it will only stay there for a week. So when they send you this file, you'll get a notification via email with a link to go there and download this file. You'll have to do that within the first week unless you want to pay for the account, because this is what you would get with a free account. Finally, I'm not going to spend too much time on teaching you how to edit. I'm sure that there are people who are much better at editing than I am, but I want to show you what this file looks like, and or at least using Premiere Pro. This is what I use, and this is what editing looks like. But the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to bring in your Zoom file. You're going to bring the Zoom recording. You're going to bring in both OBS recordings. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to synchronize all three of them using audio. This is what it looks like. So in at least in Premiere Pro, what you do is you highlight all of the audio channels, which should be three of them, the three files I mentioned. Right click on it, synchronize. Different software, video editing software are going to give you different ways to do that, but in essence, I believe that all of them, even I used to use a piece of software called Power Director, and I didn't even use the higher end one. It cost me $40, and I'm talking quite a few years ago, and even that allowed me to synchronize using audio. So look at the red arrow shows audio, and that makes the audio be the part that allows synchronizing all the videos. This is important because you want all those videos to be synchronized, because only then you're going to play with them. This is it, my friends. I hope this was helpful. It took longer than I thought to create this, and I know that it's a pretty long video. Sorry for that, but I had to go into a certain level of detail. Keep that video. I'm going to try and add to the description links to the equipment and software and things like that to make things easy. It may take me a few days. I wanted to get this video out as quickly as possible because I saw from the feedback that you needed that. But in essence, you know, the quality of recording Zoom locally looks like this. Maya, tell me about driving to Denton.
Well, since I've been driving for several years now, driving doesn't scare me anymore. So I really like the drive to Denton.
And if you follow this procedure, it would look like this. Maya, tell me about driving to Denton.
Well, since I've been driving for several years now, driving doesn't scare me anymore. So I really like the drive to Denton.
Again, thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful. This is not what I typically do, and actually I'm not typically doing interviews, but I was hoping that this is going to help you. Thanks, take care, stay safe.